Illustrate.
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 Illustrated an article of yours on controversial art?
Come back in a week's time, and I will give you a part of me that alone illustrates my beauty.
Doesn't matter. We'll get him. Allow me to illustrate. Allow me to illustrate. Allow me to illustrate. This is your husband.
That's why we get maximum exposure. ESPN, Sports Illustrated, NBC, ABC, they're all going to be there.
But I hope that his death properly illustrates the magnitude of the situation that we're in right now.
And Mr. Paisley's insensitive remarks last night about Anne Frank and her tragic ordeal have served to illustrate the anti-Semitism.
No, I don't believe this, Your Honor.
No.
In every case, the emoticons illustrate your feelings about a proposed deal.
I just thought for like a second I could maybe illustrate children's books. Max, that's so sweet.
Baby.
Wow, could it be? Newton's third law of motion, or lack of motion, in your case, illustrated right here in our bathroom.
When you swing past the drugstore for those antibiotics, you want to give me a copy of Maxim, or maybe a Sports Illustrated.
I don't share that story with you to garner sympathy. I tell it to you to illustrate a larger point.
And what point is that?
That I would do anything to get back what I lost.
Now, while this may not qualify as statecraft, it does illustrate my effectiveness, the same effectiveness I plan on bringing to the United Nations.
Draft.
Draft. Draft.
Draft.
Draft?
Draft, press releases.
Wait, click back.
Since I'm the one who made them. You should probably get me your first draft by the time we get to the precinct holiday party.
Hey, you two. Tomorrow night, Molly's, 7 p.m. Pee-wee hockey draft. Be there.
Whoa, draft, what?
Herman, come on.
I'm hopeful that your interest in professional baseball is as strong as ours is going to be in getting you in this upcoming draft.
No trouble, life. Slow piece of shit.
Yeah. Shallow draft.
There's nothing I can do. I'm legally obligated to file every properly drafted motion with the court so that a hearing can be scheduled.
No matter what tactical vest the other guy's wearing, touch him with one of those, he'll be feeling a draft.
If an armed conflict breaks out, it would be catastrophic.
Al,
A draft of a peace treaty has been dispatched to me via messenger from the Kung Fu Express.
Okay. So maybe there's a draft here, right?
Publicity has drafted a rather compelling statement, and I will be doing the talk show rounds to control the spin.
You should go. Rebecca asked me to check all the windows for drafts around the school.
Okay. This is the memo I've drafted on our Middle East policy we've been developing. Two things are now irrelevant. Donald Blythe and Donald Blythe's new draft. Eventually I'll have to rewrite the bill myself. Doesn't matter how it happened, we can't make it unhappen, so now we have to adapt.
don't they realize that this is a first draft?
Do you have a draft of the bill you can show me? We haven't sponsored any environmental legislation.
We'll draft it in consultation with your staff. Jillian will be the point person on our end.
Anxious.
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 Dark cloud rolls in, opens up. Anxious to share new work.
I really don't want to get into trouble.
You're a very anxious person, aren't you, Q?
I'm not an anxious person. I have plans and goals.
Young men are such great kissers. They're so anxious. It's like food to them.
Levin! Where did you disappear?
I'm very anxious to see you.
You sure you don't want to come down the station and talk to someone?
I'm anxious to see my daughter.
Of course you are.
PD is running background checks on both the parents and trying to confirm their whereabouts the night of the murder. As for the girl who was so anxious, Jacqueline Mathis, no connection to James Cole outside of school, but I do know why she might have been anxious. The school nurse insinuated that Jacqueline is pregnant.
Out by child soldiers.
Northern Uganda has been stuck in this nightmare for over 20 years.
No deception leakage. She wasn't involved in the massacres.
She seems pretty anxious.
Well, it's not unusual. He definitely seems agitated.
Nah, he's anxious. Yeah, which I might be if the president didn't take my call.
But I'm not sure I need coffee. I'm already anxious enough. Trying to solve a murder mystery all by yourself will do that.
Are you okay? I'm fine. You look anxious.
I'm fine.
Hi, Mrs. Botwin.
Oh, hi, Gretchen.
Shane's right. You look anxious.
I'm fine. I'll be home soon.
You seem anxious.
No. I'm excited for you.
Right?
Various.
Various. Various. Various. Various.
Citizenship?
Various.
Anything to declare?
Nothing but my undying love for you, beautiful.
And the remainder of her time has been devoted to various volunteer efforts.
She took money from Adrian Powell to have sex with various friends of his, under his roof.
Really?
Yeah.
Nectar. There are various levels of usefulness and quality.
Merely a technique familiar to certain citizens of the Orient and various holy men of the Himalayas.
Okay, during 2011, Epi went missing from various crash carts on January 6th, March 19th, March 27th, June 20th, October 28th.
He's probably gotten rid of the gun, and he has 4 family members and various household help willing to alibi him for the time of the murder.
I mean, we're talking multiple micro cameras all coming from various angles at the same time.
No, you might as well hear this. Murray has taken Matthew's letter to various authorities, and their conclusion is that it demonstrates...
Cutler had a ton of classified material on his hard drive, all related to Palek's various military projects.
So with all due respect to my existence on various thriving enterprises,
2 extra weeks, I'm up there getting the runaround from various government agencies.
Above.
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 Above. Above.
I'm 6'3", 225. That is big. It's not big. You know, it's above average. I'll give you that. But I'm not like some oversized behemoth.
You don't care about me. If you did, I would have gotten a real promotion and not an empty title bump, and you certainly wouldn't have hired a bunch of women above me. You don't want to mentor me, you want to fire me.
Sane. I think you should calm down. I think you should go to hell. You're not above it, Peter. You're not above it, Peter. You're not above it, Peter. I don't care what conversion you had in prison. You're in the mud just like the rest of us.
I'm not the one who's...
We're here to defend a client.
And if he's guilty?
Then he's guilty. Truth is above our pay grade.
He's not coming in above you, Eli. That's not what this is about. Yes, it is.
But eventually you have to feed the rat. Return to the wild.
Oh, it's fascinating. We're not going above 3%.
You need to feed the rat well.
You want to tell me how we went from a 7-figure payday to nothing?
Wasn't an ideal outcome.
No, it wasn't. We can barely keep our heads above water. You decide to go ahead and sabotage a potential elephant account. I mean, what did you do? You put in 40 full hours on this?
Past. I consulted on one of them, and I saw him in the courtroom. He literally acts like he's above the law, and that makes him very dangerous.
Then decided not to share that information with any other agency?
Well, you can bitch that one up the flagpole. It's above my pay grade, and I don't play politics.
Illuminate.
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 And we embrace this new energy so boldly, embody it so fervently, that its reflection illuminates the great gods.
Thank you, sir.
What is the significance of the looking glass?
It is to illuminate your good self, sir.
magic happened. That previously dark room is now illuminated with possibilities he's never seen before.
Almost 3,100 crystals, ranging between 4 and 5 inches each, and will be illuminated by over 32,000 LEDs.
Someone illuminate me here. What is this evidence? That's right. Take your time.
Please, illuminate me. You telling me we're shutting them down?
Excuse me? Sir, the seatbelt sign is still illuminated. If you could please return to your seat.
You're not smiling.
Objections?
Yeah, a few.
Oh, illuminate me.
Where do I start?
In any case, I found nothing that illuminated the nature of Orson's affliction or the reason behind his relentless brutal slaughter.
It is not for me to lead, but to illuminate. I've seen the future and your plan.
Mr. Benton has an old college record that's been expunged. Might illuminate what kind of a man we're dealing with.
Outbreak.
Outbreak. Outbreak.
Outbreak.
Outbreak.
What's going on around here? Some kind of an outbreak. Some kind of an outbreak. Some kind of an outbreak. Doctor?
I cross-checked the CDC's infectious disease map for recent outbreaks of the fungus in the area. There was an outbreak in Colorama Park about 6 months ago.
Dude, this is awesome. This is definitely the start of an outbreak. Outbreak.
Vapor to a powder and becomes completely inert at that time. As long as they avoid contact with blood and saliva, this outbreak can be isolated.
Past the days when we all sat huddled, scared in front of the TV during the early days of the outbreak.
7 months ago, outside Cairo, there was an outbreak. A virus of unknown origin.
During the hysteria of the outbreak, governments were pressuring their biologists to deliberately withhold vital information, research that could possibly contribute to a vaccine.
Back and forth from Albania.
Well, that would explain how she got the virus. There was a recent outbreak of CCHF in rural Albania.
You mean I could lose my sight? Just what I need. Syphilis outbreak and a tumor.
Records show the surgical gloves in use at the time of outbreak, March 15, shipped from the manufacturer Hemming Synthetics Incorporated.
All our options to keep it at dock.
Okay, well, we'll tell them customs is backed up. Calling a bomb threat. Hell, have CDC quarantine the entire ship on suspicion of a black plague outbreak. I don't care what you do.
You do understand that if there's a widespread outbreak of this virus, we'd be looking at a slate wiper.
Slate wiper?
But that is, we need to treat this like an outbreak. Pack is infected with an idea, but infected all the same.
Decade.
Decade. Decade. Decade. Decade.
Other places that sell or display items from the ominous thing?
Decade. Not really.
I'm sorry, how is Nebula 9 worthy of all this? I mean, they were canceled over a decade ago.
His name's Axel Walker, age 25. Apparently him and James have been corresponding through snail mail for over a decade.
It's been a long time for me.
It's been a really long time for me. Outside of a friendly dog yesterday morning, this has been a very slow decade.
Over the last decade, Carl Casper has somehow managed to transform himself from the edgiest chef in Miami.
Last trace of your Mira was a decade ago. If she was anything like her friends, she's probably dead.
Interpol?
Yeah, they got Jack and Jermaine a record, some financials, but it's all a decade old. It's useless.
A terrible and deadly war raged for decades between us and the Chidan.
Mercer, Pennsylvania. They're about a decade old. It was a hit and run.
Begs to differ. His prints are in the system from his arrest at a political protest a decade ago. I ran him against the partial. It's not a match.
Yeah, these all look like they're from the ominous decade. Last 10 years of King Ferdinand's reign.
What? Oh.
I didn't mean for tomorrow to be a surprise.
You think I care that a guy I dated a decade ago is engaged?
Neil, that was over a decade ago. I'm over it.
Well, that may be.
Oh, at last. I feel I've aged a decade waiting for you.
Conscious.
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 Call from the hospital. Andre Ricks is conscious. Andre Ricks is conscious. Andre Ricks is conscious, and he's willing to talk.
All right.
When?
Last night. She says he's conscious. He's out of the ICU, but he wants us to continue with the depositions.
After that, it just all went fuzzy.
You blacked out?
No, ma'am, I was fully conscious, but I got disoriented, lost track of time.
I often sit here like this at the end of the day, in darkness, and imagine what it must be like. Were you conscious when it happened?
Winning here is a conscious decision.
He was briefly conscious, then his systolic dipped below 60 and he was out again.
No, dear, you were dead to the waist.
I had sex with Alma and I wasn't even conscious?
It's like a date rape drug, only the victim remains conscious. And when the drug wears off, have no recollection of what happened.
Well, maybe you didn't know her at all.
Looks like we can fix that. Hospital just called. She's conscious.
Where did you find her?
About a mile north. They're looking for the dog.
Was she conscious?
She collapsed in my arms.
I can't see my hands.
Oh, God, he's conscious.
But
Breathe
blind.
deeply, George. You won't pass out.
Passenger trapped, conscious, but we had to pull back because stuff still falls.
Preliminary.
Preliminary.
Preliminary. Preliminary.
Preliminary.
According to preliminary estimates, we're talking about over 50 million in billings.
Hours. Our preliminary tests produce some particularly interesting results.
Now, these results are just preliminary. But the good news is they look like they came from the same person.
The DOD has given us preliminary funding for Type X.
To discuss. They won't even make it past preliminary.
Well, maybe we should hope it does, sir.
M, who is a boy, by the way, misspelled endoradiazon in the second preliminary round.
Preliminary DNA results from the needles and the drill show the DNA is all from the same person.
That was Laney. Preliminary autopsy report shows that our victim was in fact smothered. Yep. Preliminary check shows it's a cell phone.
Which means whoever it is might be in the city. Let's get a warrant on that phone number.
We'll need any preliminary reports and all of Reynolds' personal electronics, phones, iPads, computers.
I did some preliminary calculations on the drive over.
Security. 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 Security.
Apparently you have a thing for air dogs.
I'll call security. Security.
Yes, I am.
What do you do there?
Corporate security.
Corporate security? Yeah. What's that, like, garden the special sauce?
The whole point was that nobody else can understand it. That was my job security.
Shouldn't you be laboring for the security of Florence?
If Clark got out, we can too.
You'll never make it. Ever since Clark disappeared, security all around the mountain has been increased.
It's an all-cash business. Big turnover, low security.
Dude, it's just for show, man. There's no tape around it. Bullshit. Listen. Show me the security camera footage. There's no tape in there.
No, I cannot wait. This is Dr. Rachel Scott. I need to speak to the National Security Advisor right away.
And that's a violation of the Geneva Convention.
Says the man who was caught trespassing in a restricted security zone with false credentials.
Maybe they turned the factory into a harness facility.
Would explain the security.
When you threaten teachers' ability to negotiate as a union, when you threaten their job security, you threaten their livelihood.
Steady.
Steady. Steady. Steady.
Steady.
How you looking against the kid? The numbers are holding steady. Steady. Yeah. What the fuck does that mean? Steady is the prelude to a shift.
You see, guys, the key to picking a lock is a will of iron and a steady. Oh, darn it, I dropped it.
You know, I think I'm pretty steady.
There was pretty stuff under there, like to say I didn't care, but I forgot.
All engines ahead, full, left full rudder, steady on new course 270.
He's wanted for some petty crime, of which he is, of course, guilty.
Yeah, steady on.
Steady.
Steady. Stand fast. I repeat, stand fast.
We're en route to the male gunshot victim, approximately 60 years of age. Vital signs are steady. He's in serious and stable condition at this time.
She bled, but not quickly. It would be a steady ooze.
Slow and steady, Hal.
Very slow and steady.
Keep her steady. Open the door!
Donation.
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 Mr. Teacher, I think there's might be some confusion here. I'm just calling you to thank you for your donation. Donation.
I didn't make a donation, Alicia.
But we appreciate what you're doing, and we would like to make a donation to your organization. Your cooperation is valuable to us.
It's just that the day after Wade accepted the $50,000 donation, he made a 180-degree turn on building a mosque.
That's from Chicago Children Fighting Cancer, isn't it?
Yes, a donation gift.
So I get to the office, I log into the donation account, and the money's there. The numbers match up.
No, that costs nothing. That's like a suggested donation.
Would a doctor like you help the process along by making a little donation of his own?
I'll do it.
You're gonna do this?
Yeah. It's not like I'm giving her a sperm donation.
Oh, no, nothing that bad.
So how about you relax?
Because there's a problem. No organ donor card. Dead guy's sister is next to kin. She's refusing to allow the donation.
We followed the coin's trail, questioned the parishioners who were at St. Magnus's last Sunday. Susan Barrett made the donation after she found it in her son's sock drawer.
I hear you're interested in making a donation to our worthy cause?
Considering it.
Think of this as a donation. Policeman's ball, tsunami relief, end autism now.
So, if you'd like to, you can make a donation, or if you'd like to buy a T-shirt, or just sign up.
What the hell is this?
Conclude.
Conclude.
Conclude. Conclude.
Conclude.
Been made out to be. So I concluded my experiment and resumed my business. I'm sure you heard that.
Not only did I hear it, I spent most of the night considering it, and I have concluded that I agree.
Listen to this. 1920. After my encounter with what I now conclude to be a Grausen, I'm left with one undeniable certainty.
That's one hell of a tongue.
Upon close examination, I have concluded that the fan cigar is a particular type of Scallengag.
Toxicity report concludes the victims died from an excessive dose of neurotoxins and enzyme inhibitors associated.
I'm sure they've done some form of rudimentary analysis on me, concluded that I'm a jerk. I'm pretty sure he's got a brain tumor.
We considered that and concluded thrombocytosis is more likely.
Sugar merchants from the colonies. With business, I just as soon conclude without interruption.
Plus the fact that no one has seen or heard from her in the 16 hours since leads us to conclude that she too was forced into the van.
Eva, someone else did. That's why it was staged to look like a suicide, so the police would conclude that he was the guilty party.
What is that, Mr. Castle? Your latest work of fiction?
I believe that concludes our interview.
Exceed.
Exceed.
Exceed. Exceed. Exceed.
Your papers, when you bother to turn them in, exceed the assigned page limit.
One woman
dared to rise up and exceed the boundaries of the impossible.
Okay, well, I realize now that I was content to hit my targets rather than exceed them.
And sir, where I may fall short in terms of resume, I apparently far exceed the rest in terms of honesty.
Always expecting the worst from people.
Funny how often people exceed those expectations.
Digits, taken together at the beginning of each record, they never exceed 365.
This is the
4 prizes in a row, from which the profits will barely exceed the expenses it took to win it.
We'll need some additional items that will exceed our normal demands.
You'll have it.
100 casks of powder, 1,000 rounds of shot.
Stern if you have to. Even if the backstays hold at such an angle, and I wager they won't, the load on the sails will exceed capacity and she'll dig it hard as the bow. She'll hold.
But the coroner said that the fire did not exceed 250.
Am I wrong, Detective? Randall, you have exceeded my wildest dreams and my expectations.
Propose. 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 Propose.
Propose. And what do you propose? And what do you propose? And what do you propose?
Betrayed.
Let me know if you need trendy places to propose. Propose. Propose.
I think you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself.
Something's up.
Yes. I'm in love. I've come back to propose. 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 Have you guessed who she is?
I have a suspicion. Why didn't you propose when you were here?
So, what do you propose, Mr. Lane?
Where did I propose? Huh? Where did I propose?
Jenny says she doesn't want to get married.
You didn't propose without getting my blessing first, did you?
I know that Brody's gonna propose to me.
What?
He's lost too much blood. He won't survive the journey.
Then what do you propose?
To be logical.
Kung Fu should be for everyone. And thus, I'm going to formally propose that the ban on amateur Kung Fu be lifted.
I was going to propose tonight.
All right.
But I went to Joe to ask for his blessing. He said no.
When you took me to the waterfront and Dr. Wells abducted you, you were going to propose.
I propose. And you, dear. I give you this back. And in return, you tell me everything you know.
Stroke.
Stroke. Stroke.
Stroke.
Stroke.
Yes.
You could be having a stroke. Stroke.
I'm not having a stroke.
You die. Heart attack, stroke. You figure out what's what.
And that dear old dad suffered a massive stroke when Chester decided he was due for one.
Help!
He'll be able to recover most of his function. But a stroke like this, it will limit the hours he can work, the information he can process.
When does it arrive?
By the stroke of 4.
This on the block. End quote. Thomas fucking Duffy. He's got to be having a stroke right now.
I say it was a massive stroke.
You have a stroke, boy? We ain't never even come close to Yellow Jacket.
A blood clot.
If left untreated, it could cause an ischemic stroke.
With a single stroke, you'd make me one of the greatest lords in the realm.
You served my family well in the matter of the succession.
I'm prone to night terrors, so if I wake up kicking and screaming, don't panic. Just pin me down and stroke my hair and I'll be fine.
Material.
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 With all due respect, sir, I don't think I'm exactly NASA material.
Yeah, plus NASA doesn't really send people to the moon anymore.
He's just not Princeton material.
Necessarily, Cisco. Any material, if struck at a high enough velocity, can be compromised.
30 minutes of comedy for this gig. Now, what I should have said was, I only have about 11 minutes of material, tops, and what I did say...
Papers get squeezed is the first thing to go, which is why providers of first-rate source material, like WikiLeaks, are so important.
The raw material for a suitable miniature.
You think you're guard material, kid? Come here, let's have a look at you.
In the tapes, we just want to know if you have access to any of his other blackmail materials.
Other materials?
Milverton had an accomplice, someone who would put forth his materials in the event of his untimely death or incarceration.
Captain's not permitted to talk to material witnesses during an ongoing investigation.
Not sure I'm prize-winning date material anymore.
Change is hard.
Firestorm research, he said that the Army took all of Professor Stein's material when he disappeared. I should have known it was General Eiling.
You should have never dated her.
Okay, so you're saying that Linda is Becky material.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far.
We wanted to send a film crew to take footage of our filtration project in Botswana.
Right. They're just using that for promotional material.
Claim. 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 Claim.
Claim. Oh, some residents actually claim they've seen the Jiangxi.
You call yourself warriors. You claim to have honor. You claim to have honor. You claim to have honor.
It's not private anymore.
Well, that's a peculiar claim. That's a peculiar claim. That's a peculiar claim. Seeing as the deed's been in my family for 75 years now.
Hey! I'm here to claim my free pie, which will be free and requiring no compensation.
The only person left in this world you claim to care about.
I've interviewed literally thousands of people who claim to have been visited by the Greys.
His comeback attempt, his accident, the insurer who denied the family's claim.
Later, Jones will claim that Booth's singular desire was for newspapers.
Mm-hmm. He's trying to stake his claim on you. If he thinks you're all of a sudden holding it up around town.
Captain Gates, aside from your unsubstantiated claim from a murder suspect...
So a total loss insurance claim would solve all of your cash flow problems.
CA on you. I'm sorry, but it's a necessary precaution against a fraudulent claim of paternity.
Pressure. Pressure.
Pressure.
Pressure. Pressure.
Did your older friends pressure you? Pressure you? Pressure you?
No one pressured me, officer.
No pressure, no pressure, no pressure. But you're going.
Oh my God. I could have been you.
Well, you couldn't have handled the pressure.
Casual, right? Take it slow.
No pressure.
435. About 30 degrees where we get stuck. Water pressure seems to loosen up. I get it. It's a lot of pressure, having to be the best all the time.
Mansfield fired 7 guys last year, and you wouldn't know what that kind of pressure is.
Pressure point. Hope you don't need that arm for the next couple days.
You know, there's a lot of pressure being the leader, Paul.
No pressure from your family, no need to be the person that everyone else expects you to be.
Factoring in the metal's tensile strength, estimated dermal thickness, atmospheric pressure, air temp. He was trying to kill you.
His blood pressure's 200 and his heart rate is 147. Guys, he's losing higher brain function.
Yeah, but the dust it generates is flammable. The pressure exerted from the wormhole.
Yeah.
Decent. Decent.
Decent.
Decent.
Decent.
Your boyfriend sounds like a decent guy.
Andrew Pelham. Jenny was a kind and decent girl.
Woman hasn't tied her robe in 20 years. Suddenly she's not decent?
Because maybe for once in your miserable life, you'll want to do something decent.
Okay, that's a decent theory explaining Linnea's death, but it does not tell us who killed our John Doe.
Yeah, well, guy goes under the knife to save his kid. Least I can do is make sure he gets a decent meal.
Heroes game starts in an hour. Is there a decent spot around here to watch it? Not too crowded, not too loud.
I got a call my dad was in jail in San Antonio, and I panicked. Maybe the guy drinks too much, but he's a decent man.
Your guitar? Yeah. Halfway decent, solid top acoustic.
Appoint.
Appoint. Appoint. Appoint.
Appoint.
Perhaps it's prudent to appoint an interim head of the bank.
I suppose you think yourself the obvious candidate.
You could appoint someone CEO, pro tem. That's not a good idea.
I'm appointing you.
What? By the power vested in me as second consul, I appoint you, Lady of the City Pro Tem.
The mayor, he's a personal friend of yours. You want him to appoint you a judge. Do you have a little conflict of interest going on here?
Booth! Yes, Mr. Booth.
At the appointed hour, I believe.
Indeed.
Our politician was ultimately appointed to the newly created position of High Chancellor.
Where did she cross the Lord, refusing to appoint our Archbishop in Pisa, employing a war engineer?
Agreed. I suggest that we appoint Arthur Manchester to head an investigation.
Seriously?
He's got a head for these things.
Please. For now, you're about to appoint him to the Secret Service.
That would require an accelerated training program. Sir, we have plenty of qualified agents.
Unless you want to accelerate the process and get rid of it. I mean, you could always have the Attorney General appoint a special prosecutor.
That's a terrible idea.
Shift. Shift. Shift.
Shift.
Shift.
And where'd you get this?
I was made the shift manager, the shift manager, the shift manager, because I'm so punctual.
Susan!
Hey!
You're working a shift tonight. You're working a shift tonight. You're working a shift tonight.
Yeah.
Tie the bomb to a particular part of their construction site. Then we can shift our focus to the NSA strand of the investigation.
Where are you?
I'm, well, listen, I can't do my dinner shift tonight.
What do you mean?
Just changing the way he weighs investment risks, which will subtly shift the direction of his company in the way upstairs wants.
You know, the use of opiates. Or we can shift blame. Your mentor, Verrocchio, perhaps.
Am I ready?
You can shift into all gears, but you hear a clunk when you drop it into reverse. What do you do, hot chap? What do you do?
Gerald Vogel. He didn't show up for a shift last night.
On his way home from a late shift at Olympia Provisions. No witnesses.
Raise the gallants. Captain, shift off the backstays if you're worried about the masts. Shift them to the stern if you have to.
Shift over.
Okay.
She'd stay late a couple of times a week trying to catch up, and on those nights I'd pick up an extra shift at the store.
Of course there is. I've had to shift things around to pay for your medical bills, your utilities.
Whoa!
We did find this compound, which is unique.
I can't hit the compound.
You can supersede his orders.
I can't hit the compound.
Any luck?
Yeah, I just got off the phone with Cult Watch, and they're gonna hook us up with someone else who escaped Campbell's compound.
You know where he lives?
He lives in a judicial compound. Travels by motorcade.
And the only way we could actually get back into the compound was to ask the police that we were trying to expose as being corrupt.
You have the credentials.
Gieselmann's compound is now the most fortified complex in the nation.
And Mike knew if he called it in, that I'd close down the compound, so he burned her body and faked her disappearance to cover his tracks.
She stayed at the compound of Junior Vasquez, first lieutenant of the cartel.
Whoever he was, he's good. The grouping on Hunt's chest was tight. It's a compound bow, most likely. The guy's a legitimate archer. Silver nitrate.
The compound used in photography.
I figured.
But if we insulate them with a ceramic compound,
We may improve the operating efficiency.
Can you get us inside his compound?
Maybe.
This is where they're keeping Henry, Pan's compound, according to, Tinkerbell.
Well, I mean, I know where he lived, where his compound, but...
Well, that's idiotic. We all know that.
Global.
Global.
Global. Global. Global.
Of what I like to call the three wars. That's Afghanistan, Iraq, and the global war on terror.
This is a magic trick, Mr. Tesla. Played out on a global scale.
that Jesus is not a Republican or a Democrat. He hates global warming, global warming, global warming.
A company called Global Intersecting Finance just made $38 million from high-volume trading over the past 24 hours.
That's right. Germany in the 80s, Colombia in the 90s, Middle East since then.
And it's a global brand, and I'm
top sales rep.
Assange has made WikiLeaks a global force.
Paisley Group already leads the other Fortune 500 companies in the global and industry trend toward consumer use of green products.
We are now at phase 6. Global pandemic.
We're not like Mayan calendar nut jobs. We're preparing for the real stuff. Ozone depletion, global warming.
Oh my God, you're right, go global.
The world is a mess. Global warming, financial corruption, terrorism everywhere.
Well, a decade ago, I founded a small nonprofit and I built it into a major global player.